Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're looking at something a bit different. Not just a hobby, but actually a really powerful learning tool that's, well, disguised as fun.
That's right. We're diving deep into the Tamiya re-release radio-controlled car kits, the ReRes, as folks call them.
And our mission today, based on what we found, is to sort of unpack why these kits are such an incredible value, especially for students facing, two big milestones.
Yeah, we're talking about nailing that ultimate show and tell presentation, and maybe even more importantly, building a science fair project that could actually win. It's not just a toy, it's really an investment in skills.
Yeah, okay, so let's get into this whole re-release thing. Models like the Hornet, the Frog, the Blackfoot. These names mean something, especially to parents of a certain generation. They come straight from the 80s, golden age of RC.
Exactly, and that's part of Tamiya's genius, leveraging that nostalgia. It's not just the kid building it, the parent often knows this car. They might have even had one.
Right, so it becomes this shared thing, doesn't it?
Totally. It turns building it from like a solitary task into this collaborative experience. It gets the parent involved, mentoring, sharing stories, and it pulls everyone away from just staring at screens. It's about making something real together.
And this whole experience rests on Tamiya's reputation, their legacy of quality. People know them for models, but they started smaller, right? Like way back.
Oh yeah, much humbler beginnings. Founded in 1946, believe it or not, as a sawmill and lumber company. Then they moved into wooden models.
Huh, I didn't know that.
But they quickly adopted this philosophy, first in quality around the world, and they really proved it first with their static models, those 135 scale military miniatures. They weren't just models, they set the global benchmark for detail and accuracy.
And the instructions, too, they became famous for how clear they were.
Absolutely. The manuals themselves were like engineering marvels of clear communication. And that whole culture of precision, it just transitioned perfectly when they got into RC cars.
Which led to the big one.
All right, November 1976. The 112 scale RC Porsche 934 Turbo. That's the kit widely seen as the one that kicked off the whole worldwide RC car boom. They basically defined what a high-quality RC kit should be right from the start.
So those original kits, the first 100 or so from 76 to 91, they're serious collector's items now, often way too valuable or fragile to actually build and bash around.
Precisely. And that's why the re-release program, which kicked off in the early 2000s, is so important. It makes those classic designs accessible again.
Like the Frog, the original was 5A to 41, the Rare is 5A 344. Same vibe, but buildable.
Exactly. They keep the classic look and the basic feel, but they cleverly weave in modern tech and lessons learned over the decades. So the kit itself becomes this physical lesson in iterative engineering. You're building history, but improved history.
Okay, let's talk evolution, because this is where it gets really interesting for learning. If you built one of these back in, say, 1985, you had a mechanical speed controller, an MSC. It sounds quaint.
Quaint is a good word. It worked, but yeah, definitely old tech. It was basically a servo pushing a wiper arm across different contact points on a big ceramic resistor.
So it controlled speed by literally burning off power as heat.
Pretty much. You could often smell the resistor getting hot if you ran it hard.
Yeah.
It wasn't very precise, wasted battery power, and, well, they weren't the most reliable things.
I bet they failed a lot. But why stick with them for so long if better tech existed? Was it just cost?
That's a great point. Yeah, cost was definitely the main driver back then. The modern replacement, the electronic speed controller, or ESC, which uses transistors. That tech was around, but it was way too expensive for a consumer kit in the early 80s.
But now all the rear kits come with an ESC standard.
Right, and it's a night and day difference. Solid-state electronic power management. It means smooth, quiet, reliable acceleration, much better battery life, and, crucially, reverse, which makes learning to drive way easier.
That's an upgrade you feel immediately, not just something on paper.
Yeah.
And it's not just electronics. The mechanicals have evolved, too. Let's use the Hornet as an example.
Good choice. The original 84 Hornet. Super robust, iconic, but mechanically simple. It had that rolling, rigid rear axle. Just a solid bar, basically. Functional, but handling wasn't exactly its strong suit.
But fast forward 40 years to the Hornet EVO, the anniversary edition.
Yeah.
Same cool vintage body.
But underneath, it's sitting on a completely modern chassis. You go from that simple solid axle to fully independent double wishbone suspension on all four corners, proper CVA oil-filled shock absorbers, a sealed gearbox with a real differential.
It's like comparing a go-kart to a modern performance car almost.
In terms of suspension tech, yeah. It's a fantastic hands-on way to see how vehicle dynamics have progressed over decades just by comparing the old design principles with the new.
Okay, and shifting gears a bit, there's a subtle thing the sources point out, moving from engineering to, well, business. It's on the decal sheet.
Yes. The sponsors. The vintage kits had real sponsor logos, Subi lights, NGK spark plugs, that sort of thing.
But the re-release kits often have fictional logos,
Yeah.
or slightly changed ones.
Exactly. And that becomes this perfect little teaching moment. Why the change? Suddenly you're talking about real-world stuff. Intellectual property, licensing agreements, how much it costs to use a famous logo. It shows that engineering doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's tied to business, finance, law.
So the history's cool, the tech evolution is fascinating, but the real educational gold seems to be in the build process itself. This isn't just clicking blocks together.
No, not at all. It's proper construction. And before you even snip the first part off the tree, you need to understand the system. The kit gives you the chassis parts, motor, ESC, all the screws and grease.
But not everything you need to run it.
Right. Critically, the radio gear, the transmitter, receiver, the steering servo, plus the battery pack and charger, those are usually separate purchases.
Why do they do that? Why not include it all?
Well, partly it keeps the kit costs down, but from a learning perspective, it forces you, the builder, to understand how the whole system fits together. You have to figure out, what does the servo actually do? What kind of battery does this need? How do the radio signals make the car move? It makes you the systems engineer.
Okay, now we have to talk about the single biggest tip, the insider knowledge for any first-time Tamiya builder, the thing that can make or break the whole experience.
Oh yeah, the screws. This is crucial. Tamiya kits use Japanese Industrial Standard screws, JIS. They look like Phillips head screws.
But they're not. And if you use a regular Phillips screwdriver...
Disaster.
Yeah.
Total frustration. The Phillips driver doesn't seat properly in the JIS head. You go to tighten it, and the driver slips, it cams out, and strips the screw head. Then you can't tighten it properly. Sometimes you can't even get the screw back out.
Nightmare.
Using the correct JIS screwdriver, they're not expensive. It teaches this immediate, visceral lesson about precision, about standards, about using the right tool for the job. It's fundamental.
Beyond the tools, just the act of sitting down for hours, carefully following instructions, turning hundreds of tiny parts into a working machine. That seems like the real antidote to, instant gratification culture.
It absolutely is. It builds patience, persistence, skills that are kind of fading, maybe. And think about the physical skills, handling tiny screws, manipulating those little E-rings.
Oh, God, the E-rings. Those tiny metal clips that love to fly across the room.
Yeah. They definitely test your dexterity and fine motor skills. They demand focus. And maybe the biggest mental workout is reading Tamiya's diagrams, those famous, clear, 2D technical drawings, and translating that into a 3D object in your hands. That's serious spatial reasoning and analytical skill building.
And when it's finally built and it works, that feeling of, I made this, that's powerful.
Immense pride and competence, which leads us perfectly into that first big school goal, how this makes for the ultimate show and tell.
Because you didn't just bring a toy, you brought your creation.
Exactly. And a great presentation here isn't just, this is my RC car. It needs a story. 3 parts. First, the why.
Make it personal.
Yeah. Connect emotionally. My dad had one like this, or we kicked these colors because. Something that hooks your classmate.
Okay, then the how.
This is where you show the effort, the complexity. Hold up a leftover parts tree, the plastic frame the parts came on. Say, this car started as hundreds of pieces like this. Maybe talk about a tricky bit, like building the gearbox, how it took hours. Show that you overcame a challenge.
All right, shows problem solving. And finally, the wow.
The creative flair. Did you do a custom paint job? Spend ages getting the decals just right. Show your personality. But the killer app for show and tell. Live physics demos.
Yeah. You can actually show how it works.
Totally. Push down on the car, see how it smoothly comes back up? That's the oil in the shock absorbers doing its job. It's called damping. Explain how it keeps the wheels on the ground.
Or flip it over for the drivetrain.
The classic differential demo. Turn one rear wheel by hand, the other spins the opposite way. Then you, the builder, the expert, explain. This lets the wheels turn at different speeds so the car can go around corners smoothly.
And because you built it, you are the expert. No presentation jitters.
Zero anxiety. You have total authority because you know every screw, every gear. You can answer any question with confidence.
That confidence, that mastery, flows right into the next level. The science fair. The Tamiya kit stops being just a cool model and becomes like a laboratory on wheels.
It really does. It's this perfect, modifiable platform to actually do science, to use the scientific method. Under that plastic body, you've got mechanical engineering, physics, electronics, radio communication, all happening at once.
So let's walk through that first experiment idea from the sources, the gear ratio challenge. This sounds like classic engineering 101.
It is. It's about exploring that fundamental trade-off between acceleration and top speed. The core question is, how does changing the little gear on the motor, the pinion gear, affect how the car performs?
And the hypothesis would be,
You'd hypothesize that a smaller pinion gear, which gives you a higher numerical gear ratio, say 4.12 to 1, will make the car accelerate really quickly over a short distance. Punchy.
but it won't be as fast flat out.
Exactly. Lower top speed. Conversely, a larger pinion gives a lower numerical ratio, maybe 3.33 to 1. You'd hypothesize that this gives you a higher top speed.
But it'll feel sluggish off the line.
Yes.
Slower acceleration. It's an inverse relationship, right?
Precisely. And the key for the science fair is rigging up a proper experiment. Your independent variable is the pinion gear size. Controls are super important. Same car, same motor, same track surface, and crucially, always use a fully charged battery for each set of runs.
What are you measuring? The dependent variables.
Time over a set distance, maybe mark out 10 meters, use a stopwatch. And importantly, peak motor temperature after each run series using an infrared thermometer. This measures the load on the system. Then you meticulously record everything. 3 runs for each gear, average the times.
The source data really shows the trade-off clearly.
Yeah.
With the small acceleration-focused pinion, 17-tooth, 4.1 to
Yeah.
0.1.
Yeah, the average time over 10 meters was quick, 2.85 seconds. And the motor temp stayed pretty cool, around 45 degrees Celsius.
Okay, now swap to the larger top-speed pinion, 21-tooth, 3.33.1.
Acceleration suffers. The average time over 10 meters jumps to 3.48 seconds. But look at the motor temp, it's spiked to 61 degrees Celsius.
Whoa. So pushing for that higher top speed really strains the system.
Right. The data clearly shows that inverse relationship. Faster acceleration comes with lower motor load and heat. Going for top speed costs you acceleration and makes the motor work much harder, generating more heat. It's a perfect illustration of engineering trade-offs and system efficiency. You can't have it all.
That's a really sophisticated concept demonstrated very clearly. What about a second experiment, if a student wanted to do more?
The sources suggest something called the suspension summit. Here you'd build a little bumpy test track like a mini washboard surface. Then you experiment with the shock absorbers. You would run the car over the bulks with the shocks filled with thin oil, record how it handles, how quickly the chassis settles, then rebuild the shocks with thicker oil, run it again, and compare.
So you're testing how fluid viscosity affects damping and stability.
Exactly. It's hands-on fluid dynamics and vehicle stability testing. The Tamiya kit is reliable enough to provide that consistent baseline you need for isolating variables, which is, the heart of good science.
So pulling this all together for our listener, it seems clear the Tamiya ReRe kit is way more than just an expensive toy for a weekend.
Oh, absolutely. It's a whole package. An investment in building actual skills, mechanical understanding, critical thinking, problem-solving, patience, and that quiet confidence that comes from mastering something complex.
The real value isn't just the finished car, is it? It's the process.
It's the rigor learned along the way. From carefully reading instructions to realizing why the right tool matters, to maybe even logging data for an experiment, it builds this evidence-based way of thinking. That's the stuff that sticks.
The car might end up on a shelf eventually, but the lessons learned, persistence, mechanical literacy, how to approach a complex problem, those last a lifetime.
Right. And that brings us to maybe a final thought for you to chew on. Think about all the complex things in your daily life, your phone, your bike, even a website. How many of those could you realistically build from scratch with your own hands and get that immediate, tangible feedback loop? Effort in, working thing out.
Not many.
It's pretty unique. And maybe the deeper question is, now that you've seen how to methodically take apart, understand, and rebuild a system like this Tamiya kit, what other complex system in your world are you now maybe equipped or inspired to tackle next?